Fayette County's own Reverend Matthew Watts. Reverend Watts, are you open to questions or comments?
Sure. I'll be more than glad to let you guys enlighten me.
How can, thank you for being here today. Can a civil lawsuit be filed against the state?
That is an excellent question. You want to repeat your question again, ma'am?
Yes.
Oh, the question is, can a civil lawsuit?
Can't hear her still.
Brother Jones does not. He's going to comment.
Okay, okay, I'll try to speak loud. Can you hear me now? Okay. I asked the question if a civil lawsuit can be filed against the state for the, I guess.
Underfunding. Yeah, underfunding.
Their election.
If the funds were appropriated for a certain or specific cause, if they were not used for that cause, can a civil lawsuit be filed?
You know, the legalese will have to answer that question. Let me tell you the question I can answer is that in other states, suits are being filed. West Virginia State University themselves, they cannot file a suit against the state of West Virginia because they are part of the state of West Virginia. So that they cannot file the suit. However, there are people with standing, current students, former students, alumni would have standing, and they could file suits. That happened in Maryland. The governor of Maryland, the Republican governor, had just signed a settlement. I think it's something like $577 million. Morgan State, which is the land grant institution, they're going to get $400 million of that. And then a piece will go to Bowie State, a piece will go to Coppin State, a piece will go to Eastern Shore. I just pulled it off of the internet, the actual filing of a suit by Florida A&M. They're suing the state of Florida. 6 college students are suing on behalf of the university, and they're suing in federal court. I have been told, I haven't saw the details, that there's some negotiations in Tennessee with the Tennessee State University in the state of Tennessee. And they're looking at possibly selling their $2.2 billion debt that the state of Tennessee owes them. They may sell for $500 or $600 million. And I was told yesterday by a friend of mine who knows a lawyer that used to be in our city, who's now in North Carolina, that I think there's a group of lawyers there that are planning a lawsuit against the state of North Carolina. If you see what what makes this so different, and I thank you for your question, is that this is irrefutable. It's undisputable. That's why the governor and the House Speaker and the Senate President have not said, we don't owe them this money. No, if you read the letter, you send me your email, I'll send you the letters, you can go online and get the letter. I got all 16 letters that went to the 16 governors of the 16 states that have HBCUs that they've underfunded. And the letter is a polite, scathing rebuke. You owe them the money, right? And you need to develop a plan to pay them the money. And the feds, the 2 secretaries actually give them some suggestions as to how they should go about doing it. We just need to come together as one and lift our voices. We can get their attention. I believe that we can get the governor's attention and we can get the Senate President and House Speaker's attention as we become educated and as we understand the ramifications here, that a suit could be filed. And they say that actually in the letter. They strongly encourage Governor Justice, why don't you in the legislature work out a plan to pay this money to avoid a costly and lengthy litigation. So that's what the 2 secretaries say in the letter.
Thank you, Reverend Watts. I don't know about other people here, but
Thank you, Reverend Watts. I don't know about other people here, but sometimes when I go away from a talk like this, I say, what did he say again? How much money did he say that the state owes West Virginia State? And so I just want to say that this thing that a lot of you got when you came in on the back, it tells you, it's your cliff notes for what he said. So please don't just throw this away. Take it with you. Here it is. Everything he said you can look up on the internet yourself. That's all. Take it with you, please.
Anybody else? Dr. David? Yes, I could. Bluefield State is a historically black university. It was established in 1895, but it's not a land grant. It doesn't have land grant status. It has status as a historically black college, but it's not a land grant institution. Therefore, it's not eligible to receive funds from the federal government that are matched by the state. But I do hope that Bluefield State are paying attention and they're looking at how they have been funded over the years to make sure that they have not been underfunded. But the Secretary of Agriculture and Education, they only looked at the historically black colleges that were land grant.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do we need to work on pulling, oh no, it's not location. Do we need to work on getting those that we know that went to West Virginia State College or University involved?
Yes. Absolutely. There's a friend of mine who's a member of the West Virginia legislature, and he's a West Virginia State alumni, and he's trying to get information to the alumni and saying this is something that they need to really know about and they need to engage in whether they live in West Virginia or not. There are 10,000 West Virginia State University alumni in the greater Kanawha Valley, alone 10,000.
In the Kanawha Valley?
In the Kanawha Valley, 10,000 alumni from West Virginia State University, yes. And the majority of them are Caucasian. And that's why I've been on this little speaking tour to help them to realize that their voices as state alumni, it needs to be heard. And the specific strategy that all of you can do, talk to your legislators, talk to your members of the House of Delegates, talk to your senators and ask them the question, are you going to support the legislature to fund West Virginia State University? I mean, I asked them that question. The gubernatorial candidates, there's a debate. I think the 3 Republican gubernatorial candidates are going to be debating on Thursday at 7 o'clock. I'm going to try to get a question to whoever's going to be the moderator, so ask them that question. What about this $853 million, right, that the state of West Virginia owes West Virginia State University? We got to make this something that is really being talked about and being discussed. I can send to you guys I've got an email that I put together, and it has all the links, the links to the different things. You saw it, right?
Yes.
It's all the links, and anytime something new comes out in the media, I add it to that. So a person can go to one place and see the links of what's happening in Tennessee, what's happening in Florida, what's happening in these different places, as well as the newspaper articles that have been here. And there's a nice opinion editorial in yesterday's Gazette by my friend David Freisen. I've been trying to stay out of the newspaper because when I started, I've got about 10 articles written, but I think I'm gonna put them in a pamphlet, like they used to do back in the old days, right? The abolitionists, they would write pamphlets against slavery, so. All right? The lady?
No, you go ahead. I just want to make a statement. You have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Reverend Watts, I've been sitting here, and I hope I'm not the only one that has this question, but I'm not trying to be selfish, because I've had 5 relatives that went to West Virginia State and graduated from there. But I'm getting that money for them, how is it going to help all the rest of the poor people in the communities,
right,
other than Charleston? Will it help Fayette County?
Absolutely.
Will it help, and how will it help us? Them getting that money, will they give it to the poor people in these other counties?
Here's what we're proposing, and we're trying to get people behind a plan that a group that I work with, the Tuesday Morning Group that we have been developing. What we're suggesting is that $256 million will go to West Virginia State University for them to do as they think needs to be done. They got a lot of physical issues down there. They got dorms that don't have air conditioning. They got restrooms at the football field that's deplorable. I don't know if any of you have seen my Facebook about that. That didn't go over too well, but I was making my point. This is the conditions of these restrooms that are they're unhygienic. I mean, and the president didn't shut them down, and they should have been shut down. So but the other 600 million, or we believe 2/3 of whatever they get, it really should go toward this economic justice, fairness, and equity plan that we put together. There are several pieces of legislation, I quoted a few of those pieces of legislation, there are several pieces of legislation that could be used as a framework to fund projects all over the state. See, the plan that we submitted to the governor and the legislature last year was a 55 county plan. It's for all 55 counties. So because Western State University is a land grant, as I keep emphasizing, they have 38 counties listed as the counties that they either have an extension agent or are planning to have an extension agent in. So now if they have this money, they now can actually do projects, and the community should be consulted to identify the projects. This is what we need. This is the projects that we need. That's why we're trying to educate people to understand these schools belong to us. So our communities have been hurt by state not getting this money, and if we're going to fight to help them get the money, then we don't want it all spent in Institute. And we want the money to be spent in distressed places all over their footprint, and their footprint is pretty large. It's all southern West Virginia, and it's part of central West Virginia. So that's the idea, to mobilize and engage the people, because Western State, the legislature is not going to give them this money unless the people stand up and demand it. They're not going to do it, right? They just simply are not going to do it.
It's time
But
we became first again.
absolutely,
Okay?
that's absolutely. This is the election year. It's time to be shouting and screaming. And I would encourage you I will send information, and y'all can get disseminated, and send this information to the legislators. Say, okay, these 2 major articles have been in the newspaper. Here's the letter from the secretaries. Are you going to support a bill that would get funded in Western State University? Make them respond to this question. Because you know now, listen to me, you know more than they know. They don't pay attention. The legislature has been run by Roger Hanshaw and Craig Blair and Eric Tarr, the Senate Finance Chair, and I think it's Chris over the House. And nobody's thinking for themselves. They're telling them what to do. They are telling them what to do, and nobody will step out of line. Let me give an example of this. Last year during the legislative session, when they were debating on the House floor about giving this money to the group in Weirton with this battery plant, right? And there was some strong debate, not against the project. Well, some people are against the project because it's not a proven technology, right? They think it's going to work, but we're getting ready to dump $250, $300 million in the project. Adam Vance, a delegate from Wyoming County, got on the House floor, and he waxed as eloquently as anybody that day. And you know what he said? What about Southern West Virginia? What about Southern West Virginia? And he talked about, you're doing these great things up in the Eastern Panhandle, you're doing great things up in the North, now you're going in the Central, what about Southern West Virginia? And I think it was Delegate either Hal or Chris, one of them stood up and say, well, Senator Vance, we all one family. And so we got to support the family. And what's good for Mason County and what's good for Weirton is good. He said, so when Southern West Virginia's turn come, you can count on me to support it. I wrote a letter to Adam Vance, couldn't get him to respond to me. I wrote a letter to him. I said, look, why don't you organize your other colleagues from Southern West Virginia? This is when we were trying to get them to allocate some of the American Rescue Plan Act money. There was $677 million that was left. And we were trying to get them to allocate some of the money, but he wouldn't do it. You got to lean on these legislators, and you got to make them feel uncomfortable. And you got to ask them about the Western State situation, and when they, well, why don't you know? Talk to them, why don't you know this? And there have been 2 major newspaper articles, one in the Charleston Gazette and one in the Metro News by Brad McElhaney. Why don't you know? And the governor's been on TV talking about it, and the House Speaker's been on TV talking about it. You should know. So here's the information, go and read it, and then let's talk about what you can do to support Washington State University. This is what we have to do. One more question?
One more?
Wes?
Just one more?
Pastor Watts, I would like to first make a statement and then follow up with a question. How many people here know that the esteemed scientist, black scientist, Katherine Johnson, went to West Virginia State? How many people know that more generals have graduated from West Virginia State College than any other small school? How many people know that the XO of the Red Tails, in the first graduating class down at Tuskegee, there are only 2 black people who graduated. Both of them, or 3 of them, 3 people graduated. 2 of them were from West Virginia State. One of them was Spanky Roberts. And the question that I want to ask, due to this lack of education, how many other Katherine Johnsons could we have had from West Virginia? How many more generals could we have had from West Virginia? How many more Spanky Roberts or other esteemed people that has been denied a proper education, you know, coming from the coal fields where they came from? And when you talked about the coal fields, down at Kmore, there's a sign up on the National Park Service talking about where the coal operators tried to keep the black and white separate. But they couldn't do it because they wanted to be together as one. And that's what we got to do here. We got to be together as one. I am a college graduate of West Virginia State. So I think.
Before we leave, I want to share with you the history of this building that you're standing in right now and this property that you're on. You know, sometimes we say black and whites are against each other, and now in our day in this country, that's unfortunately happening. But this whole property started by 5 black men who went to the new manager of the New River Coal Company, Brother Jones, who lived in Oak Hill, West Virginia. And they wanted a school, a high school for their black children. And they went to Mr. Jones, who was the president of the New River Coal Company at that time, and asked him just for a small piece of land on this hill that they could build a school so their kids could go to high school. All the black schools in the community only went to the 9th grade. So this is a white man now. And he said, yes, I will give you some land to build your school. And now he didn't have to do that. After all, he was the master of all these 5 men who were working in his coal mine. But he could have said, no, I don't have to do that. I can't do that now. But he did, and he gave this acreage of land, and it's been here for how many years, Brother John?
Back in 91.
Yeah. So it's been here for many years because white people, a white man and black people work together for the good of each one of them. Those black men worked for his coal company, and he gave back, which he didn't have to do, this land and this property. And we have black people and white people from all over the state in our Baptist churches who come here year after year because that white man said yes to those 5 black people. So I'm so appreciative to see all of us here working together tonight. Because we forget so often, because of what the world is like today, that we are all God's children working together for the common good. And so thank you, Brother Watson.
Thank you.
I appreciated your...
Thank you.